Hi everyone, welcome to Mizzteq'S quick rundown of Sage. This is the brand new shield healer being released in Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. All of the information presented here is from a developmental build of the game and subject to final adjustments or changes. First things first, as soon as you swap into the Sage job, you'll notice your Adderskull gauge immediately start ticking up. Each full tick grants you one Adderskull, these shiny bubbles on top, which can be consumed to cast specific abilities. Similar to White Mage's Lily gauge, except it starts accumulating out of combat. On the bottom of the gauge, you'll notice spots for 3 more bubbles. Using strategic shields, players can accumulate Addersting here, which can be consumed to deal big damage. Again, you can liken it to White Mage Blood Lilies. This doohickey over here is your Eucrasia visual indicator. Sage has 3 abilities that do one thing without Eucrasia, and another thing with Eucrasia popped in advance. Think of it like the old Astro sects, where abilities had bonus effects based on your sect. We'll get more into this soon. Lastly, a huge component of Sage's healing kit is the use of Cardia. This ability makes it so that the targeted player and the Sage automatically receive healing when certain abilities are cast. This type of passive HP restore is similar to, but not entirely, a Scholar's Fairy healing. By the way, I'm making these loose comparisons to the other healing classes just as an easy way to introduce job concepts. So the main takeaway so far is this. Sages will be able to passively heal their Cardia targets in their damage rotation, and they have regular actions that get beefed up or changed by casting Eucrasia before them. Now that we have that general concept in mind, let's take a closer look. To keep this somewhat organized, I'm going to divide each section by damage buttons, healing buttons, and cooldowns. Let's take a look at the damage buttons. Remember that with the use of Cardia, these abilities also have a heal effect, which is pretty rad. Eucrasian Dosis puts up a damage over time debuff, so you'll want to keep this rolling. Regular Dosis will deal single target damage and is basically your spam button. Phlegma has 2 charges on a 45-second charge up, and you'll be hitting this on cooldown. As for AoE options, Dyscrasia is your main spam. Sages can also consume an Addersting for big AoE damage, but we'll talk about how to do that soon. Pneuma will also deal AoE damage, but it's paired with extra healing and a damage mitigation effect. It's also on a 120-second cooldown, so it'll be used more as a cooldown than a damage button. Toxicon and Toxicon 2 are technically damage buttons, but you can't really access them without using healing buttons first, so we're going to talk about them in the next section. Next up, healing buttons. Diagnosis is your single target heal, and if it follows the tradition of the other healers, it's that one spell you probably won't end up casting too much. Prognosis is your group heal, and Physis is your group healing over time. Now, using Eucrasia before Prognosis turns it into a group shield, similar to Scholar's Succor. Using Eucrasia with Diagnosis turns it into a single target shield, similar to Scholar's Adloquium. One important thing to note here is that when your Eucrasian Diagnosis shield is consumed by damage on the target, you gain an Addersting bubble. Addersting can then be consumed to activate Toxicon or Toxicon 2, dealing high AoE damage. Let's look at what abilities can be used when consuming Adderskull. Druacole is the single target heal that also restores MP, similar to White Mage's Solace. Caracole is a group barrier and regen effect that lasts 15 seconds, similar to Scholar's Sacred Soil. Ixicole is a group heal that also restores MP, similar to White Mage's Rapture. And finally, Turacole is a single target heal with bonus mitigation that lasts 15 seconds. If you're starving for Adderskull, you can use Rizomata on a 90-second cooldown to give yourself a free stack. Lastly, we have Holos, an instant cast group heal on a 60-second cooldown, and Haima and its group equivalent, Panhaima. These last 2 abilities are special for Sage, in that I don't believe there's really a direct comparison to any of the old healers. This is a single target or group shield that starts off with 5 stacks. Anytime enough damage is dealt to consume the shield, a stack is consumed to erect another round of barriers. This can occur until all 5 stacks are consumed, or the buff itself runs out of time, in which case it'll deal group healing. Pretty cool and unique, it'll be interesting to see it in action. Next up, cooldowns. Soteria will double the effect of Cardia healing on its targets. Zoe doubles your next healing spell. Pepsis is on a pretty short cooldown, and it pops any existing shields to group heal instead. Physis 2 is the beefier version of the group heal over time, with added healing buff for 15 seconds. Crassus is on a 60-second cooldown and increases healing for 10 seconds. And finally, Sage's level 90 spell is basically all of the above in one button. It deals AoE damage while also group healing and acting as a mitigating cooldown. It's juicy and barely balanced by its 2-minute cooldown timer. During the media event, I was really only able to experience Sage in a practical application inside the dungeon, which was synced to level 82. While I didn't get to play around with the max level kit as much as I would have liked, I can definitely say that its playstyle was really active, which in turn made it really fun. I think my favorite part is you can completely space out DPSing in dungeons, and as long as you have Cardia on your tank, nobody dies and blames you. I can't wait to see it in action and raid. It's got some really cool potential. Let me know what you think about Sage in the comments below, and if you're thinking about maining it in Endwalker. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.